We are back with another interview of our Dunwoody celebrities. I am Mark Galvin, the Director of Marketing for Discover Dunwoody. We enjoy bringing people to you that are from the area that can teach you something new, that help you learn something new about your neighborhood. Do you know somebody that we should talk to? So this is a little bit of a little different beginning that we've had recently. We would love for you to send people that you think we should talk to, and right now we have a special request. If you know somebody that knows the B-52s, we would love to talk to the B-52s. So send them our way. Just connect to us with the email info@discoverdunwoody.com. Now let's get on to our guest this time around. I want to introduce all of you, and I think a lot of you may already know, to Alan Mothner. He is the CEO of Spruill Center for the Arts, and I will from now on say Spruill, because that's a lot easier. Welcome, we're so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, appreciate it.
You bet. So a lot of folks think that you're just a couple blocks down the road, but you're really not. Your office is up the street.
Yeah, we contain multitudes, as they say. We have our gallery space, which is right next door, and then my office and our education center is down Chamblee Dunwoody, right, almost pretty close to the intersection by Mount Vernon and Chamblee Dunwoody, right at the library. It's construction central right now.
Right.
So if you're looking for a nice trafficy spot to come visit, that's us.
There you go. And you've got there's a couple things on that property. There's a library as well as Stage Door.
That's right. Yep. It's us, the library, Stage Door, and another small nonprofit, the Chattahoochee Handweavers.
Fantastic.
And then
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, another nonprofit here, another arts nonprofit here in Dunwoody.
Oh, that's great. Well, listen, I've got some other things I want to hit before we get into the meat of our conversation today. And I want to talk a little bit about your past.
Okay.
I didn't know this, in preparing for this talk, I found out that you used to be a photographer. So you were an artist yourself. Were you taking pictures of kids at weddings, or what type of photography did you do?
I've never done a wedding. I absolved never to do a wedding. I did take kids' pictures for a while, mostly just because I enjoyed it, and that was kind of diversification of the business.
Sure.
But primarily, my career focused on editorial photography. So I worked for the Associated Press as a freelancer here in Atlanta for a little over a decade.
Wow.
I covered sports and news and long form stories and a little bit of everything. So it was interesting.
So a freelancer, you had no employer, right?
Correct.
You sat back. Did you have to call people to say, hey, I can take photographs for you, or they were calling you? How does that work?
That's a great question. A little bit of both. So you have to hustle, absolutely, to try to find, the right type of work. But then also you build your brand, you build your reputation, you build your style as any artist would.
Well, that's really cool.
And so some people hopefully seek you out. They like your, especially as an editorial photographer and one that shot sports and things like that, you would be hired for like fast moving and breaking stories and a lot of events that required an action photographer.
That's
so
cool.
That was a lot of the freelance work.
So an action photographer is someone who knows how to get that shot of the basketball just off the rim,
right.
And the players are in the air, and they look perfectly framed.
That's exactly right. And this was, when I started, it was, back in the day, not to go too old school, but the cameras shot film. This was a thing we used to put in cameras.
Yep.
Yeah. There's these chips.
Film?
Yeah.
What is that?
Old process. And you shoot 2 or 3 frames a second. So you really had to time things to get the ball and do all that kind of stuff.
And that had to get expensive. I'm just thinking, because you get the film.
Right.
I can't take a gazillion shots like I can today with digital.
That's right.
That is, every single picture costs something, not only the cost of the film, but time, because you have to develop each of those.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Nailed it. And the thing that was hard, even harder than that, and the time and the money, was you'd be approaching the end of a roll. And so you'd have to make that critical decision. Do I switch the roll now and go to a new roll just in case something happens? So say Falcons game, 4th quarter drive, 2 minutes left, you're putting in a fresh roll.
Well, actually, the Falcons of the 4th quarter, nobody wants to see the end of the game.
This was in the late 90s. So it was a little different. It's Super Bowls and things.
Right. Yeah. This is really interesting. And I could really get into this because I did a little photography in college. I had to beg it was the professor of photography, whatever his title was. I was a business major. Okay. I had to beg to get in to do a photography class. And so I appreciate the type of work that professional photographers had to do, because it wasn't as easy as it is today. And I think today has its own issues.
Right.
But, you know, the film, certainly that process has changed a good bit. All right, we're not here to talk about photography. We'll have to catch a beer and talk about that. Notice I said
good.
Beer and not coffee, because this guy
you
is
said
a...
beer and not beers up, which was good.
That's right. I could have said bourbon.
You could have.
There's that too, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's get into some other things. You also led the DNC, and the DNC's going to Chicago. No, wait a minute.
No,
That's the
different.
wrong
Right.
DNC.
Yeah.
So the Dunwoody Nature Center in Dunwoody is called the DNC, and you led that for a number of years. How did that happen? You're a photographer, and next
Right.
thing you know, you're leading the Dunwoody Nature Center.
So interesting story, and you know, the expression like half a life is just showing up. So we moved to Dunwoody. We actually live behind the Nature Center.
Oh, wow.
And when we moved here with our family, I would go take pictures there. And I
Okay.
did a fundraising project for them in the early 2000s, where I shot a photo a day for a year. And we sold 12 prints, one for each month, to raise money for the Nature Center.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was great. Great project. Great way to really get to know the park, like every day for a year,
Sure.
rain or shine. And then after that, they asked me to join the board. So I joined the board, and that was 2004, and stayed on the board through 2010.
Okay.
Rolled off the board, and then in 2011, they were going through a transition and asked me to come back as the executive director. So that was kind of the inflection point career-wise. Like, do I stay with photography and doing that, or do I try to do something different that's a little bit more Dunwoody focused, nonprofit? And obviously I'm pretty outdoorsy and like being outside. And so it was just a great opportunity and worked out really well.
So that's sort of the lifeboat in a way that came to you, right?
From the photography?
Yeah, because photography was changing.
Very
That space. I'm guessing not a lot of people make a ton of money at photography.
Yeah,
you can, but I think that's sort of, it's kind of like, if you want to play in the NBA, that's great, but the number of players that actually get the NBA are like this big, right?
Yeah,
a little bitty small number.
It's a good analogy. Photography, I mean, all art, right? To make it as an artist is tough. And most artists have a side hustle, or they teach, or they work through other galleries, or they have a full-time day job. Like throughout history, artists have had full-time day jobs. So yeah, it was a big kind of, like I said, an inflection point, but it was really the genesis for getting more involved in Dunwoody and getting into the nonprofit realm, if you will. I joked when I left photography, I'm the only one that can go into nonprofit and get a pay raise. Like, that's tough from a
well, that's a good point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's great. So you have been in Dunwoody since 2003, but you've been in Atlanta a while.
Yes.
So how long have you been in the Atlanta proper?
So I moved to Atlanta in 1992. I came to visit in October of 91, and if anyone's a sports fan, they remember what happened then.
Oh, wait a minute. That's the Braves.
That was worst to first, right?
Yeah.
And so I was visiting Atlanta with some friends that already lived here, and you could not, like, you're at Convention Visitor Bureau and getting people to Atlanta, you could have gotten a better time to come visit Atlanta than the fall, right? The fall is wonderful in Atlanta.
Right,
anyways.
it is.
You have the Braves worst to first. I was 21 years old. I'm like, all right, I'm moving to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So we moved here I moved here in 92, lived downtown, lived in Buckhead, lived in Brookhaven, and then my family and I moved to Dunwoody in 2003.
That's
so 20
fantastic.
years now. Yeah.
I remember when the Braves did that everybody was doing the tomahawk chop.
Yeah.
The entire city. It was unbelievable. It was a good time.
It was great. And everyone was out and about. We were in Buckhead, and the streets were shut down, and people were walking around, and everyone had the game on. It was
terrific.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, I could see why you'd want to move to Atlanta then, too. Let's talk about Spruill.
Yeah.
Spruill.
You're right.
Yeah, that's right. Let's talk about what we're supposed to be talking about. Spruill is a name that we're all familiar with here in Dunwoody, but what is the history of Spruill? Where does that all come from?
Yeah, so the Spruill family is one of the long-standing families here in Dunwoody. They were the ones that helped the city to become what it is today, from our rural agrarian origins to this bustling metropolis that is Dunwoody now. That all began with the Spruills and some of it, others obviously the Chestnuts and the Donaldsons, and some of these large families that owned the property that we now know as Dunwoody.
Yeah,
unbelievable. So that is the Spruill family, and we're fortunate to have a legacy of that family on our board. One of our board members is a Spruill.
Wow, that's
so
cool.
We're able to maintain that history and that connection to the family throughout the times.
Are there a number of families that are Spruill families that still live in Dunwoody?
Just the one that I know of.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is really interesting. When you go to Starbucks there on Ashford Dunwoody, close to the Ravinia, they have there is a chimney, a fireplace that's there. And that's original from whatever the buildings, complex, whatever you want to call that used to sit there. And they incorporated that from the Spruill family. And I think that's really cool. So that history is here. I think we need to add a Starbucks to the Spruill Gallery up the street.
I agree. We coffee all day, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that. So we are at this point where we're starting a new strategic plan for Spruill.
Okay.
And that strategic plan will address not only what's happening at the education center, but that gallery space. I mean, we have so much going on in the city and so much going on in the perimeter with High Street and Campus 224 and all the new developments and this new downtown almost, right there where the gallery and where you guys are located.
Yep.
So one of the main things we're doing and looking towards in our strategic plan is how do we make that gallery kind of the epicenter of the arts and galleries here in that area. So coffee is definitely a good start.
Yeah. Now I think that there could be some there. I say that tongue in cheek, but if there was a way to pull people into the gallery just literally around the corner, that could be a good thing. And it might not be coffee.
So maybe it's bourbon.
It could be bourbon.
We can talk to the Short Barrel guys and see if we can.
I think that there may be some there.
Is that a little aggressive?
I like it. No. I like that. All right. So while everyone knows who you are and what Spruill is, let's share with everybody kind of give us the nuts and bolts of everything, not just the gallery. We've already kind of hit that, but what are the other things that you offer the community?
Yeah, so it's funny. You and I take Spruill
for granted,
right? Yeah. But so many people come in literally every day and will say, "I never knew you guys were here." Or someone will say, "How do you have all those classes in that little building?" I'm like, "The little building, it's 10,000 square feet." They're like, "That little building." Like, oh, you're talking about the gallery. All right, you're next to the library. There's a space there for Spruill, and so we have 11 studios in that space, and we teach over 200 classes each quarter. So we have a quarterly system.
And it's an old school.
It's the old Dunwoody School.
Yeah. So 11 studios are 11 old classrooms, that you guys converted.
Right. And so some of them are for painting or drawing or mixed media where you just have tables and chairs. And then others we've converted into artist studios. So we have 2 jewelry studios that are dedicated to the craft. We have 2 ceramic studios with the wheels and all the rollers and all the presses. We have glass studios. We have mosaics. We do metal clay and jewelry and every medium, every visual arts. We're a visual arts based organization. So any visual arts based medium, we offer classes in it.
Is there a photography class?
There's a photography. There's a photography darkroom.
There is. You can still buy film?
You can still
I didn't even know that.
And what's funny is the photography is becoming so popular again, the film. And it's a small studio. We have, I think, a cap of 7 students. But we have 7 students in the darkroom a few nights a week processing their film and using the enlargers and making their prints black and white, like old school. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, that's really awesome. Now, if you're out there and you're thinking, okay, great, the artists have some place to go. I don't think this is just for artists. What if somebody's not artistically inclined? Can they get involved? Do you suggest certain places for people, or what can they do? Yeah,
so let me challenge your question. So I think that everyone's an artist, and we at Spruill try to instill the belief that everyone is an artist in one way, shape, or form, and we try to perpetuate the inner artist in everybody.
Sure.
So one of the things that we do to get people interested or to try it out is to do these workshops. So if you're into photography, you can come to our studio and you can do an 8-week class and you'll learn everything about darkroom and printing and all that. But say you just might be interested in jewelry.
Yep.
How do these rings get made? How do you do a clasp? How do you do this? We'll offer workshops that are just one time. And so the workshops are
that's
during
kinda
the
cool.
week, and they're 2 or 3 hours. Some are longer, but it'll be introduction to jewelry or introduction to digital photography or intro to charcoal. And one of the things that we're really trying to do is as we talked about, like this active city, is we're just introducing this summer these Friday night workshops. So the perfect like girls' night out or date night or dudes' night out or whatever it is. And they're Fridays from like usually around 7 o'clock. They're a couple hours. You pop
that's
in,
cool.
you learn something, and then you can go. We're right next to Dunwoody Village. You can walk to Barn, and they're actually offering a discount for students.
Oh,
that are
nice.
Taking classes. You can go grab a drink or dinner afterwards. And so there's
really
this
cool.
whole idea of like, okay, we'll come out and just like see what you think about the arts.
You know, it reminds me of the day, and they may still be around, where there used to be these. You do pottery. You'd go in, you paint the pottery, and you have a beer, and then they'd fire them.
Sip and strokes.
Yeah, and I haven't seen those anymore. But that's basically what you're offering.
100%.
Come do something that's artistic, and then enjoy yourself on a Friday night.
Yep.
But you can sample different styles of art or different crafts. That's really cool.
We like to think of ourselves kind of the black hole. Like you come in, you're like, I'm just gonna try, ceramics.
You just get sucked in.
Yeah, we have
You're never going to leave.
Taking like the beginner class for like 10 years, right?
I love that.
It's time to
That's
move
so
on.
cool. It reminds me of the Eagles, Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
That's right.
That's awesome. So let's talk about something else. And I know this is really important, and probably a lot of folks thought we'd get right into this, but that's the expansion.
Yeah.
You are expanding the facilities there. I'd love for you to talk about what you're doing and give us an update.
Sure. So we started an expansion in April. I think it was April 3rd. We broke ground, and we currently occupy about 10,000 square feet.
April 3rd, we are in the end of May. Kind of give you an idea. If you're watching this in a year or two, you can get an idea.
On the construction guys, I won't call them out by name
TikTok.
right now. So we're adding 8,300 square feet.
Wow,
and so
that's a lot.
It is a lot, but people don't really know what that means. So breaking that down, we're adding 7 studios and a community room.
You had 11.
You're
adding
11.
7.
We're adding 7.
Wow, okay.
So those 7 studios are 2 more open studios,
Okay.
2 more ceramic studios, a glass studio,
Okay.
and then we are opening a brand new studio for wood turning. And so we've never offered that before, but we get questions and calls all the time. Do you guys do wood turning? Do you do bowls? How I want to take this and learn that.
Wood turning, so I can make a bowl in wood turning.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So we'll be opening a woodworking studio. Wood turning will be the primary class that's offered first. And we used to have a blacksmithing program, but it was like out back in the shed. Like it was not
Was
pretty.
it sketch?
It was very sketch. As the kids say, it was sketch. It was very sketch. And so we're opening a brand new blacksmithing studio.
Oh, nice.
So we'll have a state-of-the-art facility. We'll have all the furnaces and the anvils and all that kind of stuff. And we're really making this room like top-notch. We just finished a lot of the specs on it, so I know it pretty intimately. And so that will be a big draw to get people there. And then the other thing that we're trying to do is activate that space. We talk a lot in arts and culture and cities about activating space. So we have that great plaza area that's between the library and Spruill. And in the past, we've done artist market and we've done pop-up concerts and we've held our fundraiser there.
So this space, as I look at the building, I can't see it. It's behind the building, right? Okay.
Right. And so yet another thing where people say, oh my gosh, I never knew this was here.
Right.
And so we're trying to create this space for people to come and gather based around the arts. And so the community room will be a double studio size, and it'll have like a little catering kitchen in there. So we can do large lectures, we can do events, we can fly in visiting artists to teach large workshops. And the community can then also use it for like graduation parties or different things, because we're always looking for space, as you well know, to get people to host events and to activate that space.
Well, that's terrific. When's it supposed to be finished?
Good question.
Now the construction guys are
no pressure,
under the gun.
Jay, if you're watching, no pressure. We are supposed to be finished on November 17th.
Okay.
And so, that's
pretty specific.
Is very specific. And that is hitting like all the marks and, not having too much rain and not
Sure.
having too many disruptions with supply chain, but we are planning to open in January of 24. So we have a little
good.
bit of leeway. We've got to outfit all these studios, right?
I was going to say that you got to move in.
we got to move in
Yeah.
and make sure everything's working, make sure the space works right,
Yeah.
and gives us time to register students. So January 24 is when we anticipate opening.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
That's terrific. All right, let's shift gears.
Okay.
Let's come back over to the gallery. What's new there? I think you've got a new exhibit going on and maybe some new leadership.
Yeah, we have both. And so the gallery is hopping right now. We have Shannon Morris, who just joined us on May 15th.
Oh, fantastic.
She's been 2 weeks
Welcome,
now.
Shannon.
Welcome, Shannon. 2 weeks and 2 days. And Shannon is our new gallery director and will be driving the creative vision and the curatorial aspect of how that gallery runs
Good.
for the future. So she's already done 2 shows, which is amazing. She's been here 2 weeks and 2
Wow.
days and done 2 shows. The first one was our Pink Pop-Up, which was this awesome show. It only stayed up for a month. It had these fabulous female artists, and they all brought in their different vision. It was just joyful. It was just a happy
cool.
show
Sure.
for the Pink Pop-Up, and we got great reviews and written up in a bunch of the arts journals, and so that was a great show. And then Thursday, 5 days ago, we just opened our biennial student and instructor jury show.
Okay.
And that is an awesome show. It's one of our students and instructors' favorites. They have to get jury to get into the show. We award prizes for best 2D, best 3D, and best in show. We were honored to have Kevin Sipp be our guest juror this year.
Wow.
And all that is kind of like what Shannon's bringing to the table with her connections to Rolodex, like that big with artists
cool.
and what's happening in the art world.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're thrilled. And we'll have
I
a
love
new
that.
show. Can I tease it out a little?
Well, before you do, I got a question
Okay.
because I'm lost.
Yeah.
What does juried
What does juried
mean?
So if you have a juried exhibit, you as an artist will submit pieces.
Okay,
And you're
all right.
not guaranteed that they will get in. Some may make it, some may not. And so the juror, the guest juror, because I don't want that responsibility.
Sure.
needed to-
Yeah.
The guest juror picks which pieces form that show.
Okay.
And so the show has some continuity to it, but also he picks the best of the best.
Oh, that's great.
So it's
And
a
that's what
really-
Kevin did.
That's what Kevin did, right? And it's a really top-notch show. We had just over 60 entrants, and they were allowed to submit up to 3 pieces for submission.
Wow.
So there's maybe
That's cool.
80 pieces in the show. It's really fine-tuned, and it's some incredible work. I mean, we have students that some, like we talked about, just started, but some are, professional. We have some students that are professional artists that come to us for the camaraderie or to learn new skills or techniques, or
I can
to
see
bounce
that, yeah.
ideas or share, or
Sure.
they might be a professional potter, but they want to learn painting so that they can up their skills with their ceramics.
I see. It's complimentary. That's
Yeah,
good.
Exactly.
All right. That runs for how long?
So that show runs through July 7th, I believe.
Okay. Good.
And then
what happens?
A couple weeks after
Now here's
that,
the plug.
This is the plug. It's not the plug, it's a tease. So we have Shannon's first official full-in show. And I'll just say it's based around growth is kind of the theme, and we'll be announcing that soon.
Growth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good.
How's that for nebula?
I love that. That means absolutely nothing to me. So I can't wait to see what that does next. I love it.
It's art. It's interpretive.
Yeah, well, and that's a good transition
Thank you.
to what is public art. What does that really mean? You hear about this, and it's something that, especially here in Dunwoody, we've talked a lot about public
Yes.
art lately. What does that really mean?
Yeah, so very interpretive also, right? Public art used to be kind of the Scrooge of cities. You would see the graffiti and it didn't resonate with the community. It's changed so much since those days.
Wow.
Public art is now an enhancement. It's an economic driver for cities. You have these.
Why is it an economic driver?
Well, because you have these blank canvases that are out in all these cities. Like a giant retaining wall is a blank canvas, right? The side of a building with no windows is a blank canvas. So you're enhancing community, the feel, the discussion, the vibrancy of these communities by putting public art into these spaces. And we're, in Dunwoody a little bit late to the game, and we're certainly catching up. The new mural that's going at MARTA, oh my gosh,
It's really
groundbreaking,
cool.
right? So
Sure.
cool. And so we have all these great projects that we're doing, and at Spruill and elsewhere, that public art is speaking the communal language of the citizens here. What
Yeah.
is Dunwoody? What do we want to see? Are we fostering discussion? Are we making it more beautiful? Are we making statements about what it's like to be a human living in 2023? Like there's
I think all those things are important. As someone who is in this community as much as I am, and you compare public art in other locations if they have it, and it's more inviting.
Yeah.
It's just an experience where whether you realize it or not, passing and interacting, just by stopping at in this case, they're in front of Marta, stopping in the light and looking up at that art, you could get lost for a moment and two.
Yeah.
And that's what art's all about. It creates, it conjures emotions, whether we know it or not. And sometimes those emotions may be, you may be mad, you may be happy, but all of that, for me, is what art's all about. It's like, how does it make you feel in a way, without even sometimes being aware of that?
You nailed it. You come work for us. Because you're exactly right. I mean, it changes your outlook. It changes your day. You could be stuck at a stoplight and be all mad that you're in traffic, and see some public art that changes your perception of the day.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think there is something there, and I do think it grows our economy in larger ways than we expect.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been a great, far-reaching conversation. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Love that you had a chance to come in. Where do you want people to find out more about Spruill and about you?
Sure. So the best way to find out about us is our website, spruillarts.org. And we have pages on there for our classes and pages on there for the gallery and the show and what's happening. So that's for us the easiest way to keep up to date with what's going on at Spruill. And if anyone wants to reach me and wants to talk about Spruill or our expansion or public art, and we're always open to that discussion. And Jennifer, who was your previous guest with what she's doing at Create Dunwoody, we're inviting people to be part of that discussion and let us know her program Art Is has been fantastic for everyone in the community. I mean, everyone's opinion forms what art is in our community. So you can reach me at amothner@spruillarts.org, also on the website, or through any of these other channels.
Outstanding. Well, thanks for being here. I just have another question for you. Do you have one of these stickers?
So this is the inside joke. If you need a Dunwoody sticker, Mark is your guy, but you can also come by the Spruill Gallery or the Education Center. I think you've given me, like 100 now?
I keep trying to stick more in your pocket.
Just one Dunwoody sticker.
One big old sticker.
I'll keep this
you
one.
can have that one.
Thank you.
So this is such a good transition because we have these stickers primarily for the 4th of July. So if you are going to the 4th of July parade, we're going to have a trolley from Discover Dunwoody going up the road, and we'll be handing those out. So if you don't have a sticker yet, look for us. We'll be happy to give you one. Or go see Alan over at the Spruill Center of the Arts, and he'll be happy to give you one there. Well, thanks for being here. We so appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
You bet. So this show was produced by Discover Dunwoody. Our producer is Madison Holtz. Our sound technician is Emily Inser-Gibson. I want you to, again, be sure you look for us in the 4th of July parade. Not only are we giving out those stickers, we also have pool balls, the things that you fling at each other in the pool. We're going to give away a ton of those. So check us out. Look for us on the 4th of July. On behalf of the entire Discover Dunwoody team, thanks for watching. Be sure to follow us on social media using the handle Discover Dunwoody or our website at discoverdunwoody.com. Until next time, enjoy the day and go out and discover Dunwoody.